Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sean Day 9 Plot. I can prove that it's me by the fact that I'm actually missing half my glasses. Wanted to let you know that you are about to watch Day 9 Daily number 185. During the recording of this daily, my computer crashed. Ugh. So that means that the HD recording was lost, and I had to take the two pieces from the regular recording and glue them together. But I wanted to do this intro in HD to let you know, sorry, you're not going to have HD for a day. Ugh. Either way, see you in new future episodes coming out eventually. Bye. Let's do this daily. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is September 22nd, 2010. This is Day 9 Daily 185, and I am going to try not to mess up Forgot my light. That wasn't planned. I wasn't like, I'm going to try not to mess up, and then I messed up. Because the mess up I'm referring to is the fact that I revealed my personal email and personal login password to Starcraft 2 to everybody yesterday, and just turned the daily off immediately. We'll talk about that in a minute, but the real screw up is that my light, I didn't put on my light. Here's the big light. Here's the big one. This is the light that I always use on the left side. I'm going to prop this bad boy up on the bed. Yeah, because ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call production value. Coming back. Alright, gonna put this on. I'm going to minimize that. Good. Hello! Welcome to the Day 9 Daily, where we learn to be a better gamer, and I learn not to make fundamental life mistakes, like letting everyone know my password. And the funny thing is that I've begun doing some HD recordings of these, which was impossible to finally get working. But it more or less works. Because, I mean, yeah, I can, frap StarCraft 2, but actually getting it so that you can record me, and you can record StarCraft 2. See, look at this. I can just bounce right into the game. Oh, yeah. That's right. I can do that, and I can come back here. It's apparently very hard to do. So finally, it's looking like it's going to work. But the video encode's all choppy, so gotta finally fix that end thing. But what this means is that my good little screw-up yesterday, where, once again, I displayed my personal email and password to everybody, I have that recorded in HD. I rewatched it today, and I just got so stressed out. That was brutal. Because, I actually don't get easily rattled, as you may or may not know. Probably people can see that I'm a pretty laid-back dude, but I just... Oh man, yesterday, when you just see your password there, you realize how stupid it is. You know, it's like, I'm a cool man 27. You're like, oh, that says so much about me, about how lonely of a person I am, you know. And when I rewatched the recording, I made the following noise. I go, ugh. For any of you who are there, I reveal it and I go, oh no, shit. Oh god. Oh, I'm not easily rattled. But I was sweating. I was freaking out. Woo! Oh. But you know what? I did yesterday? You know what I did after revealing all that? Canceled the daily, changed all my passwords, and came back on at 8:30 and did a daily. Yeah, that's what I call dedication, my friends, because Newbie Tuesday will be a legend, and it will live on forever. So it's Wednesday. And nothing really rhymes with Wednesday. We have Monday Fun Day and Newbie Tuesday, but there's no, Friend Day Wednesday. I don't have any friends. So we're actually just going to be looking at an epic game played by Gretorp. And Gretorp is really good. He plays for Fnatic MSI. He gives excellent massages, which, I know that sounds weird, but when I saw him at MLG, he's like, oh, what's up, Day? Great to meet you, man. He just puts his hand on my back and just pushes this confident thumb underneath my shoulder blade, and it felt so good. I just immediately trusted him. If he was like, I need all your money, I'd be like, here you go, man. That's fine. You're a healer. So we're going to be watching one of his games today. He's also has a stream that you can find on Own3D TV/Gretorp or something like that. Either way, it's on Team Liquid. And I was actually watching this game live because I also watch a lot of live streams, and Gretorp ended up falling a little bit behind in this game when I was watching, and I kept coming back, and he kept playing well and kept hanging in there. And just to note for the record, let's go into the black space so we can actually see how cool of a person Gretorp is. Hey, handsome user, how are you? Good, man. You never used me to train, and look at Gretorp, already layering on the guilt. Mind games, baby, mind games. Call that a switch-up. Jimmy, you dodged me. The accusations begins. No, never. Gretorp, feigning innocence? I don't dodge. Of course not. He's a respectable individual in the community. I bring the game to the person. He talks like that in real life, I want you to know. That's what makes him awesome. Speaks to you like that is he's just with those confident hands, just giving you such great massage. Anyways, so Gretorp does a little bit of something that is different. I'm going to go ahead and ignore this because I just wanted to hear Gretorp say, I bring the game to the person. So most people in this matchup, I think, are going to open how ThisIsJimmy opens. I didn't actually specifically see ThisIsJimmy open in that fashion, but it's the way it looked from the start of the game. And yeah, it looks like he is going to be doing that. Most players build a supply depot. Most people don't wall in because that's free fodder for tanks in case you do get contained. There's no reason to wall in early on. Barracks being pulled back. Yeah, barracks on 12. Gretorp goes refinery, then barracks. Look at that. Refinery, then barracks on 12. Seems a little bit unusual, but we're going to see some cool things happen right at the outset. So I just want to focus largely on Gretorp's point of view. He's actually playing in a Clan League match right now, and if he finishes, he will come on the air, so we'll get to get some good stuff from that. But I want you to just note the usual things from the timing of ThisIsJimmy's build. We go barracks, gas, then we get our orbital command and our marine out right away. And then we're actually going to be throwing down a supply depot really soon here. I'm going to come back for that. But Gretorp's barracks finishes a little bit later, and look at a factory immediately going down. We have not yet built another supply depot. ThisIsJimmy is going to be building a supply depot very soon, at least he should be, if he is a reasonable player. But already we have this factory going down really fast, and the orbital command going down very fast as well. And note that this orbital command is not that terribly far behind this orbital command, just by about, it looks like 30 seconds, an orbital command. Yeah, it looks like about 30 seconds. It does take 35 seconds to build. 35 game seconds, which is about 20-something seconds. But the factory's really fast, and there finally is now going down that supply depot. ThisIsJimmy getting a much earlier supply depot, actually building his depot before he starts the factory. And just notice that ordering, that for ThisIsJimmy, these two supply depots came before he ended up making this factory. For Gretorp, look at this factory is almost done. Still just one gas geyser, now going ahead and getting the SCV out. And here's going to come an extremely fast starport. This is a great opening for any of you who are sort of struggling in this matchup. Because in general, the sort of tank Viking marine play that people are doing require good positioning. You kind of have to be a little bit finesseful because you have to know when to siege and where to be pushing. The idea of how to control your tanks can be quite difficult to know. But this opening by Gretorp is pretty straightforward, and we're going to see why it's good, and we're going to see its straightforwardness as well. And then hopefully when Gretorp starts making them mistakes later on, we can talk about how to pull some brilliant comebacks. And it's going to be, again, matchup independent. We don't want to have everything be focused on what Terran players can do to beat other Terrans. It wants to be what you can do to just beat other people. ThisIsJimmy doing everything so normal. I'll come back to talk about this in a minute, but look, here comes the very fast starport and a duper fast Banshee. Notice that this starport isn't even done yet, and the Banshee's going up. This guy can only just now get ready to build a tank. Looks like ThisIsJimmy did, in fact, forget a supply depot. Nope, there it is. He did supply block himself a little bit. But here comes the super fast Banshee. That Banshee is so ultra crazy fast, and he cancels it. And it looks like he's just going to go ahead and go for an expansion. Now, this is going to look absolutely insane to most people. But I briefly want to talk about the base build that Gretorp was doing, which focuses around the very fast Banshee. And he actually ends up getting 2 Hellions. The idea is, and this is so easy to do for, like, anybody. So easy. You do a really fast Banshee, because you went gas barracks. Really fast Banshee. What do you do out of the barracks and the factory? Well, you make the only units you can, Hellions and Marines. Seems obvious. And then what happens is when you get the Banshee, 2 Hellions and a handful of Marines, generally about 3 or 4, then you go attack. You push with this force. And be reasonable. If there's a bunker with Marines in it, don't push, you'll lose. Don't even try to get fancy and try to run around. But for most people who are doing this tank, Marine, Viking mix, what do? You just trade your armies. I know the Viking can shoot the Banshee, and there's nothing you can do about that, but you just pretty much let the Banshee die, and what your Marine Hellion Banshee army focuses on is killing his Marines, just killing all those Marines off, which they're going to do pretty damn fast. A lot of the times you can get the tank. Their Viking generally lives to tell the tale. So what happens? You traded armies. Both of you have nothing, but you have an expansion. And that's what Gretorp did. I just want to state for the record, notice that Gretorp has almost enough for a Banshee. If Gretorp had not canceled this Banshee, he still would have been able to throw down this command center really quickly. And if you look at ThisIsJimmy's money, ThisIsJimmy doesn't have anywhere near enough money to get a fast command center. So this is a great build by Gretorp. And now, in this game, he coincidentally canceled it. I'm pretty sure, let's actually go to the Gretorp cam. It looks like he just saw something here that signaled to him that the Banshee was not going to be effective. Not going to worry about that too much, just wanted to state the base build that he does, which is Marines, Hellions, and 1 Banshee, allowing him to get up a fast command center. And then what does he do? He backs up and he ends up getting a lot of Marauders. He's just going to go for the usual ground control, getting some Hellions. This seems like an odd choice, but Hellions are very good against Marines. And you do want to cut down on those Marine numbers, because if it's just tank Viking against a lot of Marauders, Marauders are definitely going to win in small numbers. I did want to say, for any of you who will occasionally see some huge choppiness, this is an old patch replay, and the whenever you patch to the older replay, StarCraft 2 for some reason becomes like super unstable. So for any of you just seeing some real stutteriness, it's all me, and my computer is streaming it perfectly to you. Now, one thing to note, look at how fast that was. Oh yeah, if you're a new player, I just want to note how that looks. Especially for you Silmond or Diamond Leaguers. I just decided to combine all the leagues into one. So we have the game paused right now. Let's go ahead and resume it. So let's just look at Gretorp's. I just want you to be aware of the mini-map right now. Just be aware of it. And here's the tank. It takes very little time for Gretorp to react to that. Now, that's something that is exchanging in-game money for out-of-game skill. For instance, I could spend in-game money building a turret at the back of my base, so that way I could kill off any of your air units coming in, or I could spend out-game focus, which is me looking at the minimap, to notice those air units coming in, and all of a sudden I've freed up that money that I would have spent on the turret that I can use on other things. And that is really how you start becoming like a super mega hero player. If you're silver, gold, diamond, or excuse me, silver, gold, platinum, in that range, I just want you to look at the mini-map more. Good tactic. Anytime you build something, you just go, build a Viking, look at the mini-map, look at your money. Just very, very basic. Building a Marauder, look at the mini-map, look at your money. And because you are just generally building lots of stuff in a game of StarCraft 2, you end up just very, very happily looking at your mini-map all the time. You'll notice a lot more. Sometimes people just say, I need to look at the mini-map more, and then they stop right there. Well, why? I mean, you can just as easily train yourself to do it or have some sort of trigger mechanism to do it. So, right now, Gretorp doing just a good old 3 racks Marauder, getting some Vikings, getting some Hellions. It seems it's very tempting to go only Marauders, but you really do need to get the Vikings out. You really, really need to get Vikings out. You don't want to lose air control. Then what happens if he sieges tanks here and you can't get good vision up there? you lose. You lose. Good game. Good game. Very cool stuff. Very intense Terran versus Terran action. ThisIsJimmy, in like the 1 or 2 other games of his that I've seen, does a lot of early pushing with tanks. I think I've seen 2 of his other games. Haven't seen too much of him. Gretorp, though, whew, that guy's awesome. Look at Gretorp's patience here. Look at how calmly he's just sitting here, just waiting for good opportunity to press in here, spreading his units out. Oh, that's so great. ThisIsJimmy hasn't even finished that command center. ThisIsJimmy, of course, now starting to get some more barracks of his own. But Gretorp, oh, very clever little build, very clever little build. If this was a push that wanted to come out way earlier, Gretorp could have gotten that Banshee to deal with it. Now, let's just see how Gretorp controls this little fight. He does the stim. He still has everything nice and spread out. And then he is going to be target firing some tanks, but notice that not all of his Marauders are suiciding to kill those tanks. At one point they were, but a lot of them were just kind of hanging out, pulling back. And this is exactly the spot you want to be in if you are a barracksing player. Trading armies is great. I used to feel scared in this position, especially in early beta days when I didn't really get Terran versus Terran. I would lose all my stuff, and then I'd kind of, and I'd be in a panic. You are so golden here. You are in such fantastic, fantastic shape. Because let's just look over at ThisIsJimmy's base. He can't really build anything. He's going to get like another tank out, but tanks are only good if they have a lot of ground support. He's starting to get add-ons to these barracks. Don't push him, for God's sake. Don't get in Gretorp's shoes and just be like, doing, and rush over there, because you'll just end up in really messy situations. Marauders are good in kind of middle-ish size numbers. They're pretty good in small numbers. They lose effectiveness in huge numbers because tanks in huge numbers are, you know, the ground everything killers. But look at this. Gretorp has not really increased his barracks count. He has expanded. Oh, yeah, sure, we have a 4th barracks going down. We have a few more geysers going down, but the expansion, oh, yeah, that's so good. It's so good. I cannot tell you how often people kill off a big attack, and then they go, yeah! And then they don't expand, right? They just go, yes, I killed the attack. Oh, I'm the man. And then they lose later because if you kill an attack, you need to understand what your advantage is. 1, he doesn't have any units, so he can't attack you. That means that you don't have to make as many units. Oh my god. I only had 1. There was no list coming. I just really wanted you to know this one point. He doesn't have any units. He can't attack you. You can tech. That means you can get a higher tech thing. You could go for instance, Battlecruisers. Not saying that that's a correct decision, but you have the opportunity to do that because you bought yourself time. You can get upgrades. Oh, how often have you been 30 minutes into a game, you look up and you go, oh, I'm maxed. I'm also 0, 0, 0. Ugh. Oh, you can expand. Big 3 things. Teching, getting upgrades, and expanding. Very, very important 3 that you always want to do whenever you kill off a huge force. Sure, you will occasionally have opportunities to counter push, but be very, 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 very aggressive about expanding. Super aggressive. I'm not quite sure what my opinion is on barracks being thrown down here instead of the main. They definitely are a little bit easier to defend here. But I don't really have too much of an opinion on that. Gretorp spreading his stuff out. This, honestly, to me, was one of the most interesting control points for him to keep his army. And this is Jimmy doing a very smart thing. Anytime you are behind, I'm going to be talking a lot about this from Gretorp's point of view, but this is Jimmy, you know, obviously a good player. Anytime you are behind, you want to make certain that you do some little bit of harassment to try to get yourself back in the game. Looks like he is killing off the supply depot that has the extra supply boost. And I'm very curious about Gretorp's placement here, because I saw this a lot of times when I was originally watching the game on his stream. But in this particular circumstance, I'm a little bit unsure. Yep, looks like ThisIsJimmy is going to have to run away. And, oh, that's weird, a Banshee without, like, 28 kills? Huh, that doesn't happen very often. But still, Gretorp manages to pull it off. Very nice, very good. ThisIsJimmy also doing another very smart thing. If you are behind, just go into crazy macro mode, like nuts bonkers macro mode. Sometimes a very good technique. You Protoss players who like getting 4 or 5 gateways on 2 bases, if you are behind, making 8 gateways on 2 bases with a forge, good way to try to just slam your way back in the game with some solid macro. But yeah, so look at Gretorp getting this expansion. Notice how this expansion was never under any threat whatsoever. Yeah, ThisIsJimmy's doing some drop-in action, doing some Banshee action. That would have happened regardless. But, you know, this is just so safe. This is so friggin' safe. Going to the resource counting station, yeah. Looks like Gretorp is falling a little bit behind. This harassment is kind of becoming a touch of a pain. Now, what a lot of times will happen is when I opened this up, I was actually expecting Gretorp to be a little bit ahead, and it looks like he's actually about even. Oh no, what does this mean? People mess up this analysis all the time. They see 105 to 111 food. And they will say, oh my god, ThisIsJimmy caught up. Gretorp let him fall behind. No. Gretorp has basically an equivalent army size. They basically have the same size army, but Gretorp has another base. Even going to the income, we can see how much higher Gretorp's is. I mean, that is just a gigantic boost. So, ThisIsJimmy now mounting up for a big offensive. Yes, very good. And I do have to speed this up just a pinch because this game is very, very long. Very, very long game. Very awesome game. Really shows how dynamic Terran vs. Terran is. SCV is moving up to the Zelnaga Watchtower. And now this is a very tenuous spot. I'm sure a lot of you have encountered this who are Terran players. Or just in your other matchups. Tanks are scary. You want to hit him when he is not sieging up. You do not want to hit him when he is sieged. So there's a lot of this very gradual forward and back movement, very, very gentle. Notice that Gretorp is still making Vikings. He's getting some medevacs to heal, but the Vikings actually took priority. You want that so that way you can shut down Ravens, you can shut down his medevacs, and most importantly, shut down anything that's flying so his tanks can't see very far. Gretorp having tremendous patience. The longer he holds on, the longer he just sits around waiting, the longer he will let the advantage of this orbital command build up. This is Jimmy doing the smart RTS thing, expanding and attacking at the same time. Anytime you attack, think about expanding. Or as I think about expanding, basically go friggin' expand, Terran. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Terran players. Expand! Expand, damn it. Nothing wounds me more than seeing a Terran player do a gigantic push. It barely dies, and there's no expansion there. Do you realize how rewarding it is to do a huge attack where you trade armies and you go, sweet, now it's 3 base versus 2 base. That's the feeling that you want. That's the feel-good move. Oh, man. It's like coffee with whole cream in it. Oh, God. I don't know if you've ever had just like regular black coffee. Just like completely American, nothing in it, and then you put cream in it. A lot like Terran vs. Terran. Coming back to the game, looks like more barracks going down by Gretorp. Notice that Gretorp's production is not actually way ahead of ThisIsJimmy. ThisIsJimmy has 5, looks like a 6th rack just got finished, and then 1 factory, 1 starport. We have 5 racks, 1 starport, 1 factory. Yeah, there is more coming down the pipeline. And this is the part where I was watching this game and I was getting mildly concerned for Gretorp. ThisIsJimmy's doing a great job pushing, very good, slowly inching his way forward. Doesn't really want to get too far away from those tanks. So good. So good. More scans going down. Both players just scanning one another a lot. Seeing any opportunity that they can bust in there. Because even at the unit counting station, we can see that, wow, it looks like Gretorp's actually a little bit behind on the Marauder count. Wow, ThisIsJimmy definitely going into the macro mode quite well. But of course, with armies like this, Gretorp does have a little bit better of a positioning on him. And at this point, I mean, looking at this replay and looking at this position, I was kind of like, you know, Gretorp maybe didn't quite get as many Marines and Marauders as he should have. I think that this harassment back here did quite a bit more damage than it needed to. I mean, look at this. Nothing really mining here. Honestly, Gretorp should have more stuff here, and probably could have gotten this 4th and 5th barracks up a little bit sooner. So when I was watching this game, I was kind of like, oh, God, oh, man, how is he going to come out of this? This is a pretty good decision to get this command center. It's a little vulnerable. It's actually kind of a neutral decision. You could hole yourself up tight and play ultra defensively and then try to bust out with a big, gigantic push, or you could just intend on playing defensively for a really, really long time. Now, I want you to just acknowledge that Gretorp is not looking comfortable. Just a lot of times this is a good measure. You just look at a base, and if it looks really safe, probably something good is going on by one of the players. Like an expansion here, I want you to picture on right here, just look at the mini-map. If there was a giant collection of blue right here, it would just feel so safe. This does not feel safe because of these guys right here. And this is what I love so much about what ThisIsJimmy is doing, just very, very slow. And look at Gretorp with the almost constant scans. He's just looking for any window that he can use to break in there. He's trying to swing around. Gretorp also being pretty damn good about those upgrades, getting those started. ThisIsJimmy getting the double ups himself. Looks like ThisIsJimmy just went for a bunch of barracks and then decided to get upgrades. Gretorp tried to do an attack on both ends, and I saw this. I saw these guys being really slow from behind, and let's see what happens. Good morning, tanks. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that stings. Oh, no. And ThisIsJimmy, look at that. How often have you had someone try to break your huge army, and then he retreats with a small force, and you just suicide chase it? But ThisIsJimmy knows the importance of the tanks. This is true in all Terran matchups. If you have a big tank-heavy force, use those damn tanks, right? Don't get so overeager that you rush away from them. Still, I'm very impressed with Gretorp's patience in this particular spot. It's so easy not to be patient. It's so easy for stuff like this to happen, where you just start boxing groups of units just to, like, box, attack. Box more units, attack, and you're just trying to wail away at it, and soon enough it doesn't work. Gretorp's just gently positioning the tanks. Looks like he's getting up some more starports. This is a very tough spot for Gretorp. Very, very, very tough. How on earth is he going to break out of it? How is he going to do that? And it looks like, often when you get in this spot, people are actually saying things to me, especially on the YouTube channel. They're like, "Don't stop pausing the game, man. Just talk all the way through it." No, not on Wednesday. All right? In this game, this is actually the most important part to stop and pause. Because I have been in this spot a million times over a million years of playing. Which basically means once a year. In this spot, how often have you been in Gretorp's spot where there's an army right friggin' here, and all you're doing is just constantly making out of all your barracks? You're not thinking, now what is a good next step? Perhaps I could harass him. You just don't have the brain power to do that. You're too busy trying not to shit your pants at your computer for what could be a 45-minute long game. So, that's why at this point in time, you want to stop and you want to say, what is the correct decision? So that way you can go back next time and do it. And getting battlecruisers, or just in general getting some big air force, is a good way to break this. He has such a scary ground force and absolutely nothing in the air. He doesn't even have a starport with reactors on it. He cannot even begin to make Vikings. Getting just a couple of battlecruisers could be very, very nice. Tank a little bit too close to the edge, going to get picked off. A lot of these are really low health, and a lot of my computer cannot handle this game. It is lagging. Again, that lag is on my end. My computer does not like rebooting to old patches, as this game was played 2 days ago, the day before the patch came out. So Gretorp, still being very careful. Notice he's only engaging when he has a pretty good position, and then he's just calmly backing up. And then he can eventually clean this up. Looks like Gretorp might not be able to make use of these. ThisIsJimmy is just macroing so beastly-like. Gretorp doing good things, cutting off the reinforcements. Nice. He wants to be able to whittle down this force without these kinds of guys making their way in there. Ugh. And I think at this point in the game, if ThisIsJimmy just continues to push in a very reasoned, calm fashion, he will break this expansion. He will. Because he has these two tanks here. These two tanks have been heroes this game. And ThisIsJimmy, very admirably, is just sticking by his tanks, not getting too far ahead. ThisIsJimmy hasn't really done that much expanding. He's just done a bunch of heavy-ass macro, just trying to break into his opponent's front. He has those 1-1-ups. Looks like Gretorp may barely be able to stay alive. Starport still making some of them medevacs. And, these Vikings are doing a good deal, just killing off these medevacs. And that's the only reason that Gretorp was actually able to stay alive at this area, is because all of ThisIsJimmy's units were way in the red. Now they're, obviously very, very green. This is green, baby. And this is definitely what let Gretorp stay alive, is the fact that there were not that many medevacs from ThisIsJimmy. And Gretorp trying to do a nice little bust attempt. He's trying to pierce into basically a key defense point. If he can get tanks here, these two bases will be able to stay alive. So he is doing everything he can to secure it, and just barely did so. Now, you heard me say this at the start of the game. And I'm going to repeat it again. After you trade armies, and you know what happened here? An army trade. Nobody can really attack anyone. And look at what ThisIsJimmy's doing. Taking the gold, taking this expansion. ThisIsJimmy's just keeping the pressure on. Sure, they traded armies, but Gretorp has all these tanks that he's going to have to defend with. It's going to be rough. And as a result, Gretorp is not really going to be able to do anything. Now I think ThisIsJimmy is getting a little over bold here, sending out these small forces when he could just as easily stick back by the tanks. Even one tank is very, very tough to deal with. And hey, look at this. Gretorp now is able to make some battlecruisers. Oh my goodness. Battlecruisers are so good in this matchup. As we will see very, very soon, Gretorp needs to maintain a lot of control with Vikings. He absolutely needs to have a ton of Vikings up. This little harassment drop, I think it's pretty well timed. I mean, after you've traded armies, little harassment drops are probably going to be a little bit more effective, but I basically think that this is an okay time to do a drop because Gretorp is finally not on the fringe of dying. If you're in an intense battle, that's a great time for harassment because he is probably going to be distracted. But if you are literally barely saving the expansion with 6 units, don't take 6 of them and go try to do a harassment drop where you're going to kill off 3 depots. Right when you're barely able to be alive, due to a big attack, that's a good time to harass. People tend to just sort of harass when they remember. But again, set up triggers for yourself and say things like, right when he is moving out really close to my base and we're ready to engage, I'm going to go try to do a harassment drop. A lot of Terran players do that. I know Rebukes does that a ton, and he is like super tip-top on the ladder. Very, very, very common strategy. And Gretorp just harassing and getting out of there. Good stuff. So Gretorp going to the resource count in the station. Looks like ThisIsJimmy's a little behind on food. Gretorp was able to kind of slowly claw his way back. But we can see ThisIsJimmy is having insane income. Hasn't really made use of this expansion yet. A little bit frown-worthy. But Gretorp is still up against the wall. Just looking at the map, Gretorp looks to be the one who's feeling very unsafe. Now look, here are the Battlecruisers. They just finished. They just finished! And you know what Gretorp does? He just goes, attack, and moves in. I think I'm the only person who really was happy about that air-to-surface upgrade, or excuse me, that air-to-surface nerf that came in the recent patch, because this is just not going to be close. Just Battlecruisers against anything? Oh, jeez. The only thing that's really great against them is Vikings, and that's why people are so adamant about making lots and lots and lots of Vikings in this game. If you can just get a Battlecruiser or two out, you can just flip those tides around really, really fast. ThisIsJimmy immediately making a starport. So to sort of recap what we've seen Gretorp do so far, because this game is just such an excellent example of holding on and then just playing very smart. What's so good about what Gretorp was doing in this game is just that he was defending, pulling back, still expanding. And this is the first big attack that Gretorp has done all game long. The first one. I'm actually just going to try to find out how far into this game we are. I could be very clever about this. Yeah, you know what, I'm not going to. This is very far into the game. It's like 30 minutes into this game or so. But this is the first time he's chosen to attack. And in all these little skirmishes, like here, like back here especially, when Gretorp was trying to defend up there, constantly pulled back. Just pulled back, tried to get his opponent to attack at crappy angles, just tried to sucker him in, tried to bring him in. It doesn't really matter that, you know, ThisIsJimmy didn't fall for it and that Gretorp didn't get those huge advantages. The big thing is that Gretorp was just defending very, very smartly. Here comes a planetary fortress. I think this is smart by Gretorp just to, like, rush it down. You can get a little too obsessed with, oh yeah, I need to carefully attack with the Battlecruisers, so that way I can take 0 damage from all of my units. You know, this isn't single player. In multiplayer, you've got to kill stuff fast. Now, Gretorp has not yet sieged up those tanks. I'm actually just going to back up a little bit because this is something that you will never see until you go into first-person camera. I'm going to go to the Gretorp cam, and I'm going to be scanning we're going to see how many scans Gretorp begins to just toss down here. Scanning here is really important. Like, oh, there's an army coming down, and we're going to see Gretorp. At least he should be scanning. That's what is very standard. We did see a scan go down there earlier on. But, you know, this can be a little bit uncomfortable of a spot. Yeah, look, just constantly scanning the armies. He sees it, and he's going to end up moving back. And actually, later in the game, we see that Gretorp is going to spend almost all his money, almost all of his energy on scan. It looks like the reason he wasn't doing it before is because he just didn't have the energy to. But scanning to get a good sense of where your opponent's army is so key, because where your tanks are is pretty much where you're going to be pinned to. And at this stage, right after he kills off this planetary fortress, Gretorp's going to siege up, and now he's almost committed to just being here for all eternity. I mean, ThisIsJimmy is clearly just going to rush this down, and that's not going to be so good. But getting those scans off to know exactly when and where to siege, because I mean, what if Gretorp was here before he'd ever come up to this expansion? What if he was here and he just sieged all his tanks up? Well, now, all of a sudden, ThisIsJimmy can just position his stuff, and right when the tank's unsieged, he just rushes it, and this expansion gets to stay alive. Not so good. More Battlecruisers being made. Just the general unit mix. The Marines, the Marauders, the tanks. Oh, looks like Gretorp setting up some defensive planetary fortresses. But still, just a few Battlecruisers. Just a touch of Battlecruisers. Look at how many Vikings ThisIsJimmy is having to make. Those could have all... I mean, this is like 4 tanks right now that he could have instead built. And Gretorp killed what he wanted to, and now it looks like he's going to play a little bit more defensively here. Looks like he is just going to hold back. And I still think ThisIsJimmy is in a reasonably good situation because he was just so far ahead in expansions. I mean, he had all these bases up. Sure, 2 of them died, but that gold's still running, so that's going to maintain a pretty significant boost. I mean, even if we look at the income tab, yeah, Gretorp is ahead, but he does have a million. He did just kill 2 bases. Earlier on, when I had the resource tab open, you could see how much higher it was. So see that? Look at that. That one Battlecruiser. You know what? The Battlecruiser did fall, but ThisIsJimmy completely lost ground control. Completely and totally. And this is what's very interesting about this interaction, about just the way the Battlecruiser can let you swing back in. If ThisIsJimmy for 1 second stops making Vikings, Gretorp can make a bunch of Vikings himself, regain air control, and we saw how much damage 2 Battlecruisers could do just to a bunch of Marines. And you don't want to be making nothing but Marines. You really still want to focus on the Marauder heavy half, because then all of a sudden tanks get way better if you only have them Marines. So Vikings can do this stuff, but mobility is going to be able to repel it. Gretorp looks like he's still kind of moving out with the Battlecruisers. Wow, getting upgrades for the Battlecruisers. I'm also curious, what are his upgrades for infantry? Oh, yeah, 2-1 upgrades, and ThisIsJimmy is at 2-2 upgrades. Kind of would like to see some more upgrades coming out of Gretorp. Just because this game has been, like, pretty long, and you do always want to be slowly chipping forward. A lot of times people tend to get double upgrades or get nothing. Invest in the single engineering bay defense. And now the Vikings finally getting to do a little more damage. And one thing that I love that Gretorp's been doing consistently in this game, he's pushing along this lane regularly. He is not pushing along this top side. If he pushes along this top side, these expansions are vulnerable. If he pushes along this side, these expansions are defended. Just general, basic, good decision-making. And sure, and also the new and juicier expansions are over here at the left. There's a number of reasons, but I would consider the main one that these expansions get to stay alive. And Gretorp looks like he's slowly going for a little bit more air emphasis. And the tanks get sieged up. You see, this is something that can happen if you siege up a little bit too early. Your tanks can just get caught and are free kills. And ThisIsJimmy, oh, he's gonna land, but Marauders are so good against Vikings. Unfortunately, ThisIsJimmy had enough forces to let that thing stay alive. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about these suicide plays, because over time, I'm wondering why Gretorp didn't just siege up here and slowly push here and then take this control point. You saw how scary that was when ThisIsJimmy's forces were all piled up right here. I think that Gretorp could have really just taken the chance to be a little bit more methodical in that. Gretorp does tend to favor big mobile forces. You see him very good about not moving his, or not sieging his tanks until like the very last second, and just having them as this unsieged little blob. But now that Gretorp has control of his high ground, he's in a good defensive spot. Now, Marines are really good against Vikings. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Day 9 Daily 185 Part 2. Hi, my computer just cold tanked in the middle of that daily. Because, things are running a little hot according to my, my Elite Tuning Utility monitor. Oh. But you know what? We're just going to go ahead and blast through this game. I'm not going to cover up the replay bar this time, because I just want to make sure that we have a daily. But we're just going to go through this game really fast, up to right when Gretorp was pushing out with those Battlecruisers. Because I really want to highlight when Gretorp was pulling ahead and when he was pulling behind, as we examine an arc of a game. And as usual, Starcraft 2 will crap out from time to time, because the utility that repatches it creates system instability that I suppose could crash your computer. I really didn't want to do an old replay today, but, you know, honestly, this game was just so good. So look at this. Gretorp held off a push here, and he responds by expanding. Now, Gretorp is pulling ahead in the food count, but the most important thing is that Gretorp is really safe from any frontal attack. He got harassed in the back of his base. Yeah, you know, his food does end up dwindling, and ThisIsJimmy does pull ahead. But what I want you to acknowledge is that really, Gretorp is maintaining an even army size and getting so far ahead in the expo count. This is bad that he just has no guys mining in his main. That's definitely a little foobar, a little friendly foobar. But then ThisIsJimmy begins to do the very slow, gradual push. Now, I'm scrolling slowly. We see a lot of movement, but notice how the tanks are just like barely following my gentle movement down. And yeah, just now, look at that. Did you see how he inched forward? That's so good. And this is really when Gretorp was feeling the pressure. And look at the mini-map. We see the expanding by ThisIsJimmy. Very good stuff. Gretorp moves in for an attack, but pulls back very calmly. very calmly pulling back. More movement through the middle, but more Gretorp just pulling back, pulling back, pulling back. He's under pressure, but he's just pulling back. He has a lot of bases up. He's going to wait till they can come into use. Now, I mentioned this because Gretorp had air control and actually got way up on the medevac count. And by air control, I mean that he had a lot of Vikings and his opponent did not. Because of that fact, Gretorp is able to kill this big army because look at how it's all orange and red. All of it. Yep, and it just gets chewed right through. This is Jimmy. Looks so gradual with those tanks. It's so good. Now look at this is Jimmy just conquering the whole map. Gretorp barely defends, and again, we're about at even food counts, but this is Jimmy is just way ahead because of these expansions. Well, really, once those expansions finish, he'll be way ahead. This is Jimmy starts getting a little bit bold, and this is where Gretorp really has the chance to kind of pull back. He's finally getting his production up. He's deciding to get some Battlecruisers. This expansion is finally becoming useful. And here comes the two Battlecruisers. They were about even in food at this point. So Gretorp begins to storm up. Now, I just want you to see Gretorp's food. It's at 188. I think, in retrospect, Gretorp should have slowly pushed to this planetary fortress to just kill it. Sure, there are a lot of turrets. Sure, it would have been slow. He could have even done something like siege up right here and send a few guys over. But just watch the food counts. 188 to 152. Alright, he kills off that. Uh-oh, some good scans going on, some good scans. Gretorp's maxed. And then because he suicided in at this bad angle, look at that, the food counts re-even themselves out again. Completely re-even back out. I'm not a fan of those things where you get so far back into your opponent's territory that you can't reinforce. Look at all this stuff that Gretorp had just hanging out back here that could not participate in this battle because it could not be reinforced. If Gretorp did a straight push with slow, gradual reinforcement, basically, if Gretorp did what ThisIsJimmy was doing all game long, he would have been in significantly better shape, push-wise. So we're going to go ahead and slow this game back down again. To the good old X4 speed. This is Jimmy just trying to do the get expanding. Gretorp trying to harass. Yeah, and look, another suicide. And see, this isn't an obvious suicide. It's not like he went into this saying, I hope I just lose all my units and kill off the command center. This seemed like a good choice to hit this, but again, this is what happens when you really dump yourself forward into enemy territory. You just get surrounded. Whether you're Zerg against Protoss, Protoss against Terran, Terran against Terran, doesn't matter. This just happens. The deeper you get into your opponent's stuff, you want to have reinforced lanes open. Really, really want to have reinforced lanes open. Now, I do have to speed through this a little bit more because I wasn't anticipating a system crash in the middle of it. And I would ideally not like yet another system crash. So, both players, I think, have finally now sort of stabilized. Both of them are just doing good, gentle, normal styles of play instead of doing anything too crazy. And this is the part where a little harassment can be good. When everyone's in a deadlock right here, tank line versus tank line, a drop here is so good. Or even having a battlecruiser tank against the missile turrets, just take a bunch of damage, and then you can get in there with your drop. Now, the issue that Gretorp's having, now, in this matchup, there's always who has ground control, who has air control. Sometimes they're the same person. Sometimes it's different people. But here, Gretorp does not have air control. ThisIsJimmy has a lot more Vikings and can actually just prevent any sort of movement around. It's kind of neutral-ish, but ThisIsJimmy just has more Vikings. And he is constantly producing those Vikings. If he ever stops producing them and falls behind, Gretorp kills off all the Vikings, and then the Battlecruisers kill off everything else. Battlecruisers are a good push-busting unit. They're great at busting entrenched positions. And looks like very slow nothingness going on. I love what ThisIsJimmy's doing. He advanced to here, blocks the minerals from mining, and then nothing. Just chilling. Just chilling. He's going to hang out, not trying to be aggressive. He's just going to let this game play out. He's setting up this expansion here. He's got some planetary fortresses finally running. He's just going to let this game run out and knows that when this is the only mineral patch left, he should be at an advantage. Seems like a little bit ridiculous to just be like, alright, well, I will plan on a win in 25 minutes. But a lot of times, that is the correct play, and that's the way it is. And notice that this game has been super dynamic, ultra back and forth, ultra all over the place, until right about now. And what Gretorp is trying to do is trying to get more Vikings. Looks like he's maxed right now, but Not as many Vikings here, more Vikings here. Gretorp again. The Battlecruiser is the good push-busting unit. If you're pretty secure on ground, just get a few more Vikings than him and kill off all the stuff. Gretorp also has the advantage of 2-2 upgrades. Now, ThisIsJimmy hasn't invested in all these expensive Battlecruisers. It looks like he has a little bit more of a Marine Marauder army, but wow, those Battlecruisers really demonstrating why they are so awesome. We're able to deal quite a bit of damage in that. See, easy peasy, easy peasy. If you can get air control and get some Battlecruisers out, you're going to be in good shape. That obviously demands that you have a lot of ground to keep you alive. That obviously demands that you have a ton of resources to keep you alive. And with this style push, with this army composition, I'm a little more comfortable with moving around, doing some fancy stuff, because with tanks, you really do have to worry about when do I siege. I'm still a little bit hesitant, because just that's so far deep into enemy territory. That's just so far. With air is kind of an exception, because Vikings really are the scary air unit, and your Vikings are just so fast. But look at what one Battlecruiser is doing. Oh yeah, the good old 20-kill Battlecruiser. Still not as much as one Banshee will get in every single Zerg vs. Terran, but a lot of kills nonetheless. That is a vicious, vicious Battlecruiser. ThisIsJimmy's going to do a good little bit of mic. He's absolutely not going to micro. Okay, he's going to do, he thought about microing. Now we're seeing some of that. Vikings do outrange Battlecruisers, so you can do that sort of fanciness. But just note how much damage a Battlecruiser has done. I've had a lot of problems with players just whipping out a Battlecruiser in my games. I don't even ask for it. They just totally whip it out unprovoked. More Vikings going down. And see, this is, I think, the more confusing part of games that people see. Because especially when I was a young, budding Terran player, I was looking at this and going, why is he making so many Vikings? If we go to the unit station, I mean, his opponent has 9 Vikings. Why are 25 of them out? And it's because just having one Battlecruiser is enough. One Battlecruiser can be very, 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 very scary, especially with those armor upgrades. This is... I have no idea what that was. This is free units. Gretorp, those have very clear plans. It's kill this left expansion. Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill this left one, kill this one. I actually don't mind killing off these ones because these are farther away from this. And if you have air control, if you have more air units, you can just easily walk over here and kill it and run home. If you have a lot of siege tanks, these are hard as hell to kill. If you have a lot of siege tanks, just push the middle. It's easy, you can siege up, you can reinforce. Oh, so basic. A lot of Viking on Viking action, more Stim Mariners, you gotta be a little careful of that, but I think very clearly Gretorp is slowly chipping ahead. And honestly, I like that Gretorp is finally starting to cool off. When my computer crashed and I had to open it back up and replay through this game, right about in this period of the replay, I'll actually just briefly rewind to, I guess it was closer to this 27-minute mark. When Gretorp was doing crazy runs over to here, we saw his food just getting really high and plummeting again. See, like right here, as we've rewound, look at how it's max versus a 150 food army. Max versus 150, and attacks like this, suiciding all the way in, ends up with evening resource counts. But like in this spot right here, the fact that Gretorp was just pushing to this left location and just very calmly waiting here with the Marauders, letting the tanks kill everything, patience and just gradual killing of your opponent is really, really good. For you Protoss players, you're against a Zerg. He has 3 bases. You kill off his 3rd. It's just his main and his natural. It's okay to pull back and regroup. You don't have to just suddenly start suiciding into the next location. Gretorp getting the good stack. This is actually really good. Not only does it look awesome, but this will make all your Vikings shoot at once. This is the sort of clustered mix that people really miss from Brood War. And look, Gretorp just patiently waited here. Just had the tanks up on the high ground. This forces Jimmy to attack a spot he doesn't want to. Just having a gentle positioning here, just trying to deny expanding here. So effective, so good. And he's going to kill off his command center. Let him the command center. Not exactly what I meant, but good nonetheless. And Battlecruisers getting built up by Gretorp. And as we speed up this game, Gretorp, because he still maintains air control, I'm curious, are there any other starports? Yeah, look, all these starports are just making Vikings. He has 4 Battlecruisers. He had all the time in the world to mass up as many Battlecruisers as he wanted, but instead favored getting tons and tons of Vikings. Look, Vikings still probably being made. Yeah, look at him just streaming out. Gretorp with the so easy. Yeah, I mean, obviously the upgrades are going to be helping in these air v air battles. But I mean, I feel like Gretorp fell behind. And by the way, we're going to be doing some questions here. We ran a little over, but we also crashed a little bit much in there. Gretorp was just holding on, and then finally crushed this push outside his base and was just like ahead. And then he started to do some suiciding in and do something crazy, but honestly, when Gretorp really started to secure a solid win, was just with good, methodical, straightforward stuff. What's problematic for learning is that the excitingest stuff you can do is have these dramatic games where you're trying to kill off his expansion over there, and the last shot with the Marauder kills the command center right as you lose your whole army, and you go, oh my god, and when you win that game, what you do is you tell people, oh man, and I target fired his command center and I barely kill it off. Oh man, that felt so good. Screw that, man, because you just could have gently attacked and you wouldn't have even had the last 20 minutes of that game. You just would have straight up smashed. So Snowing Hailing says, Day 9, you said that building a bunch of unit-producing structures in macro mode is great, but yesterday you talked about not letting your minerals build up and toss down a bunch of buildings. Yes, that's so key. That's such a good point. I'm going to come back to the game and illustrate what I mean. So yesterday, there was a player who had too many unit-producing structures on one base. Like, for instance, if Terran had all these structures on just one base, he wouldn't be able to produce out of all of them. And this is just straight-up income rate. Right? You just literally do not get enough money to constantly produce out of all of them. And yesterday I was saying, sometimes if you're a weak player, you let your money build up, and you go, oh crap, I have 1,500 minerals. Let me just build 3 gateways. And then you end up with like 12 gateways on 2 bases. That's bad. You don't want that many gateways on 2 bases. You just can't produce out of that many. What I was saying, though, is that, screw it, I don't even need that. Yeah, look, very Matrix-esque. I'm fixing them on Friday. Back off. In this game, what I like that ThisIsJimmy did is he made just as many unit-producing structures as he could on 2 bases and left no more minerals for anything else. So a lot of times when you're playing, you will like do something like, here's a good number, 3 barracks making Marauders, 1 factory, and 1 starport making stuff. Just 5 unit-producing structures for Terran on 2 bases you can support, and eventually you'll have enough money to expand. And you'll have, like, enough money to build some missile turrets. And you'll have enough money to build an engineering bay and get upgrades. And you'll have enough money to make some supply depots. And you'll have enough money to make SCVs. Did you hear how many and you'll have enough money tos there were in there? That was a lot of them. But sometimes, if you are really far behind, you think to yourself, okay, well, I know he's getting another expansion. I know he's teching. I know he's doing all this fancy stuff because he's killed off my initial push. I am going to make 7 barracks, which is just barely enough for me to support. It's not too many. I'm going to make 7 barracks, which means I won't have enough money to expand in a little bit. I won't have enough money to get those upgrades now. I won't have enough money to build any missile turrets to defend my whole base. I won't have enough money to do almost anything except produce the shit out of all these unit-producing structures. That is macro mode that I'm talking about. That is going into this all out. I'm going to make as many units as I can now because I need to get a good advantage in the next, like, 5 minutes or so. Or else I'm going to lose the game. And as we can see, ThisIsJimmy did a brilliant job of that. This little push that ended up dying, he lost that. And then he goes into macro mode, and notice no engineering bays, no turrets, spending everything on mules. Actually, not even that many guys in gas, right? Just nothing but unit-producing structures making stuff. And then what happened to Gretorp? What happened to him? Well, he had the risk of this huge push getting up into his base, and that's exactly what happened. And ThisIsJimmy went for a very, very late 3rd base. A 3rd base at 160 food, that's so high. But that is basically the sacrifice that ThisIsJimmy made. I am going to go into all-out macro mode and try to get into a good spot so I can get my foot back in this game. Cool. Stuff. Two more questions. Two more questions. Two more questions. The Bad Beast says, will you be taking pre-patch replays for Monday and Tuesday? Preferably not. Do not make it a pre-patch replay. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And we're going to take two more questions. Quince1 says, Dear Day 9, Gretorp repeatedly pressed with damaged air units. Why didn't he repair? Is it ever worth it to pull back and repair? Yes, pulling back and repairing is definitely a good thing. And honestly, if you are a... Because for a tip-top level player like Gretorp, who I think is like 1700 or something right now, for a tip-top level player, that's always an extremely difficult question to answer. When do you pull the guys back to repair, or when do you push onward? If for a platinum and lower level player, I'd say that if there's nothing really going on, like you're in a retreat or you're just sieging up tanks and expanding, repair your stuff. Rest of the time, just attack with it. I really want to get those platinum and lower level players in the mindset of, I have to be active, I have to get in the game, I have to attack, I have to be willing to lose half my army to do significant damage. Because it's so easy to go, ooh, I don't want to attack until I have the ultimate force, and when I have the ultimate force I will attack, and nothing shall die, and all shall remain well in my reality. Just get in the habit of attacking, and if nothing's going on, yeah, repair. That is a long-ass discussion. I would have to specifically say, here's a good time to repair. There's a bad time to repair. Here's a good time to repair. And then after 100 games, you get a sense of it. But it's so complicated, don't even worry about it. It's just not as essential as other things. So, so let's see here. Hindy Hat says, Dear Cool Man 27, that's me. You mentioned that it's good to harass while being under pressure. I can understand this because medevacs are so versatile. As a Protoss player, how can I harass to buy time without devoting too many resources to unnecessary tech? With some styles of play, harassment just doesn't coincide with what you're doing. Like if you're going all Colossus Stalker, you want everything in this nice, bear huggably tight army, because that's what makes it strong. You can't break that ball, so you want to walk with it around the map to kill everything. And if you weaken it, then he does break the ball, and your whole game plan was bad. Or your whole game plan has been thrown out the window. But for Protoss, good techniques are just building pylons around the map. Let's take Zelnaga Caverns. At that bottom end of the map, you know where there's that little back door swing-in entrance? Build a pylon back there. And if he kills it, build it back there, but farther away. Build one at each expansion. Build one here and there. And then when he moves out to attack, just warp in 2-3 zealots, send them into the mineral line, start killing stuff off. If you were going for a big gateway composition, which is something I like to do, just get some warp prisms. And actually, I'm going to suggest that you get more than one warp prism. As in, probably 2. Get 2 warp prisms and just try warping in and just sort of see how that ends up working. Because people tend to get 1 warp prism and they're like, alright, go. And then it dies and they go, guess I better get another warp prism. And there's another 2-minute period where nothing actually happens. Just try to make yourself start doing some harassment. Get a lot of stuff out of that robotics bay. I think people are definitely undervaluing the observer as a unit. People have a big tendency to get an observer, look in his base, and go, great! And then never make observers ever again, and only Colossus all the time. Especially if you're a big gateway-ing player. Observers and warp prisms constantly out of that robo bay. And then warp in a lot of gateway units and do the good harassment. Yeah, and Blink Stalker is also a good one. Blink in, kill off an add-on, blink out. It can be useful, but I like the Warp Prism stuff personally the best. So that wraps up Day 9 Daily number 185, and I have tragic, awful, horrendous, gut-wrenching news to tell you about tomorrow. I have to do a pre-recorded daily, because I'm actually doing something social tomorrow at 7 p.m. This is something I've resisted for apparently a year, because that's almost how long I've been doing this daily. People say, hey, you want to go get dinner? I'm like, yeah, as long as it's at 4:30 or 10. Because I have a daily I have to do. But just for once on Thursday, doing something fun. So I'm going to pre-record something that will hopefully be very awesome. But once again, wanted to say that Fun Day Monday submissions are en route. Submit a replay to Monday at day9.tv of you carrier rushing as Protoss. And the restriction is you are not allowed to build an expansion nexus until you have started building a carrier. Yeah, I'm talking about like one base carrier openings. Send me those to Monday at day9.tv, and we'll look at them next Monday. For Newbie Tuesday, send a replay to Tuesday at day9.tv of you losing to early pressure, whether that be a cheese, whether that be just an early attack that killed you, or whether it is an early attack that did damage and crippled you, and you lost 2 minutes later. Send me those replays. We'll look at them next Newbie Tuesday. For now, I'm out. Sorry about the crash. Bow. See you later.